Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to our YouTube Live. Welcome to our YouTube Live. I am so happy to be back, and I am so happy to be here with Zachary Parker. Hey, Zachary, how are you?
Doing well. How is it going?
It is going pretty good. It's going pretty good. I just finished moving, so I'm settling in now into this new place. How has, tell people a little bit about your background and, all of that. Tell me about the DC State Board of Education.
Totally. I am an educator. I am a former teacher, third generation educator. I call Ward 5 home. My family's been rooted in DC since the 1960s. Although I was born on the south side of Chicago, which reflects DC in many ways in terms of disparate outcomes and for education, depending on a student's race and ethnic background in terms of housing segregation and gentrification.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, I represent Ward 5 on the State Board of Education. Many people may not be fully familiar with the State Board, but we oversee everything from learning standards to graduation requirements and serve as the only democratically elected educational body in DC. We work alongside the State Superintendent's Office, and it's been an honor to represent Ward 5 on that body.
Oh, wow. So tell me, with the pandemic going on and it's been going on for some months now, how has the education sector been affected by that? Tell me from your personal experience how you've been handling this.
Yeah, I think many will attest that it's been hard for everybody, and it's deeply impacted our schools and learning. In fact, I just posted something earlier today from NWEA research that suggests that when schools come back online in the fall, students are expected to enter with approximately 70% of learning in reading and less than 50% of learning in math as they normally would have entered due to distance learning and school closures. And we know that the pandemic is only exacerbating inequities that already existed. And so students who without resources or access to technology are bearing the brunt of this pandemic. And it's something that we should all care a lot more about and try to remedy in this upcoming budget cycle.
Oh my goodness. And speaking of that and the upcoming budget cycle, what is your outlook on how things will change moving forward when it comes to education in DC, the education sector in DC? If we still have to deal with COVID a year from now, or if we are past it, what do you think some of these changes could look like? What can people expect?
Great question. I would say I have been heartened to see that the mayor committed a 3% increase in the budget. It is yet to be seen what the council does, but I am hopeful that we will invest more in education versus less. I would say that, again, we need to direct resources and funds to our most disadvantaged students. We know those are our students who may not have access to the technology and educational resources that are needed to supplement learning during this time. And there's a lot of talk now about what school might or might not look like in the fall. There's a lot of talk about hybrid learning where some students are in the school building while many others are at home. And while I don't necessarily have a strong opinion there, I know we need to ensure that we are serving students equitably. And so that means our most at-risk students, our most disadvantaged students should receive more resources versus less, and should be top of the order in terms of receiving interventions versus what has been happening, which is a more even kill approach. And so we need to make sure we're working more equitably to meet our students' needs.
I
Yeah.
see. Now, speaking of things that are timely and things that, are affecting the country, the city, the world as a whole, we're in this new civil rights moment going on right now. And, I wanted to get your outlook on that, your feedback on that, especially with, your perspective being in education and, what that means with young people today and all of that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's been amazing to witness. I have been out protesting with many neighbors, just decrying another Black body laying slain in the streets. And I would tell you what started off as a feeling of hopelessness has transitioned to inspiration by seeing the many Washingtonians, as well as people across this country, calling out racism and police brutality. The Supreme Court ruling this week that said it is not okay for one's business to discriminate against them based on their identity or sexual orientation is another move in the right direction. But it's just all a reminder of we have a lot more work to do. And so to your question about my work on the state board, that is why I committed myself to this work over a decade ago, realizing that I have in my life in many ways been fortunate to receive great opportunities in education, and realize that even in my own family, when I think of my oldest brother, for example, we have two very different life outcomes. And it all stems, or in large part, from the educational opportunities we were afforded. Same parents, same household, same neighborhood, two very different trajectories. And so I'm hopeful that this movement for social justice and calling out and calling against the ills of our society is something that we will see more of as we just make our society and country and city even better for generations to come.
Ah, I see. Now tell me something. I haven't been to high school in a long time, or anything to that effect. What what is the curriculum like when it comes to social issues, social justice issues, racial issues, stuff like that? What are they being taught currently? This moment, does this moment bring anything to mind where people are kind of looking at it like, okay, there are certain things that children, that the youth need to be taught, that they need to be, they should learn this in school, especially about things around these issues. What does that look like?
That is a very great and timely question. The State Board of Education is actually in the process of revamping the district social studies standards. And that's important because the district has one of the oldest sets of social studies standards in the country, which means that students in DC schools are not learning about Barack Obama through our standards as our first elected Black president, for example, or other movements like the women's movement and others that have happened in recent years. And so to your question around how are we reflecting this moment? I, again, am heartened by the work that our educators do day in and day out. Many of them are being creative and bringing civics into the classroom. And we know that learning doesn't begin or stop with our learning standards, but I'm also heartened and glad to be a participant in revamping the district social studies standards so that they are anti-racist in nature, so that they do tell a more complete history of all people in this country and in the city, including Black and brown folk, and that we can educate our students so that they are more civically minded and engaged to be able to call out racism and social ills in the future.
Awesome. I mean, it's been so lovely to chat with you today, Zachary. And before I let you go, is there anything that you want to leave with our audience?
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed my time chatting with you as well. I would just say there is a temptation in these moments to move on and return to life as normal, or at least attempt to. And I think that the uprisings that we saw only a few weeks ago, we should keep them top of mind. And as we're entering the budget process, as we are going to in the voting booths, keeping in mind what people are calling for and the change that we are demanding. And as elected officials, I would call on my colleagues to just respond to the call of the people, which is for a much more just society. So I'll end on that point.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Zachary. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.